Alright guys, in today's video, let's talk about progression on weighted dips, aka pretty much how to lift more weight over a period of time to get stronger and to build muscles. Let's dive right into today's video. Now first and foremost, when I'm talking about weighted dips progression, I'm kind of assuming or working under the assumption that you are already tracking your workouts and writing your workouts down, because all things that I'm going to talk about in today's video are not going to be relevant to you unless you actually write down the workouts and try to ensure progressive overload is happening within your training. And that is because what gets tracked also gets better, and also how can you actually make a plan and try to get better on your weighted dips if you're not already writing down your workouts and you're not aware what you're lifting week to week. And also, if you're new to weighted dips and just starting out, make sure that you can do about 15 to 20 reps, which is your body weight, to make sure that your dips are ready to be overloaded with additional weight. And with that being said, let's dive into the actual video. And like I talked about in previous videos, how you progress is going to depend massively on your current training experience. A beginner is going to find it much easier to progress than an advanced athlete, therefore his programming and his workouts are going to be different. So what I'm going to do in today's video is go through your progressions from a beginner all the way up towards an advanced athlete, starting off with the progression as a weighted dip beginner. Now, as a beginner, you are going to make absolutely disgusting progress on weighted dips, predominantly because the weighted dip is a new exercise for you, therefore a new stimulus, therefore your body will adapt much quicker to that new stimulus that you provide throughout your training, which also means that you don't have to do that much to actually make progress. The only thing you need to do is try and pick a number of reps for your sets and try to do more weight with the amount of reps as the weeks progress. And to give you guys an example, let's say as a beginner, you want to be doing 3 sets of about 6 reps. On week 1, you will do 5 kilograms, week 2, 6.25, week 3, 7.25. So pretty much what you're doing is you're adding a little bit of extra weight every single week, therefore getting better at your weighted dips. But there will come a point from which you can no longer do that. So at that point, what you do is you simply change up the rep range. And to use the previous example, if you're used to doing sets of 6, what you're going to do now is choose a different rep range. For example, sets of 8 reps. So what do you do then? Obviously change the rep range, choose a lighter weight, and then progress within that rep range for a little bit. And whenever you hit a plateau on a rep range, the only thing you have to do is to change that rep range to start making progress again. And that is literally the only thing you have to do to progress as a beginner at weighted dips. Just keep the rep ranges constant and try to overload within that rep range as the weeks and the months progress. Now what I would like you to do, and what I would advise you to do, is to keep doing this for as long as humanly possible. Try to make the most amount of progress on the least amount of work and effort needed so that you can actually progress for longer. And only when your current approach isn't working anymore, that is when you can change things up. And that is when you have to start progressing like an intermediate athlete. At this point in time, you're no longer able to progress only working in one rep range. The logical next step would be to work in different rep ranges throughout the week. And so this pretty much means splitting up your training into heavy days and volume days. On the heavy days, you're going to be doing lower reps and more strength focused training. And on the volume days, your focus is to get more volume in and to work a little higher reps compared to your heavy days. And to give you guys an example of that, if you're doing 2 push workouts a week, on day 1 you're going to be doing sets of 3 reps for your heavy day, and on the second push workout you're going to be doing sets of about 8 reps. But once again, at some point you won't be able to progress any further working in those rep ranges. At that point, just like when you were a beginner, you simply change up the rep range. And so what you could do is, when you were used to doing sets of 3 on your heavy day, go to sets of 5, and on your volume day, if you're used to doing sets of 8, start doing sets of 10, for example. And every single time that you hit a plateau, you are simply going to repeat that process, aka work in a rep range, a certain rep range, until you hit a plateau before changing up the rep range, progress in that rep range for a little bit before changing the rep range up once again. And when you are an intermediate, it also could help to actually start working in rep ranges instead of doing sets of a certain amount of reps, especially when doing higher rep set, aka 5 reps and above. So for example, instead of doing sets of 8, you might be doing sets of about 6 to 8 reps. And the reason for doing this is that if your progress becomes a lot slower, what you can do is start with a weight that you can do for about 4 reps, work your way up towards 6 reps, and where you can do 6 reps, you increase the weight and go back down to 4 reps. It's just a different way to progress, not by adding weight, but by getting more reps in with one singular weight. And towards the end of the intermediate stage, you can also start thinking about implementing top and back off sets like I've been doing in my training for the last few months, aka work in different rep ranges within one single session by doing one set in the strength rep range and combine that with back off sets within the hypertrophy or the strength rep range. And once again, just like progressing like a beginner, what you want to do is try and follow this approach for as long as humanly possible and make as much progress on this setup as you possibly can before making things more complicated. And so once again, make as much progress as possible on the easiest setup possible to allow you to progress for longer and to only overcomplicate things when you really have to. And then lastly, let's talk about progression as an advanced athlete. So pretty much, I'm gonna go over this a lot more quickly than progression as a beginner or an intermediate, simply because most people aren't at this stage yet, therefore the information isn't as relevant for the majority of people. So pretty much once you actually reach advanced stage, more complicated programming is going to be required for you to make further progress, simply because making progress at this level is becoming much harder. At this point in time, you probably are going to follow a program that is actually going to have you do certain training blocks, highly focused on hypertrophy for the first few blocks, and obviously going into strength blocks after you've done a lot of hypertrophy training. And also at this point in time, you'll probably have to work on specific weak points and start macro analyzing your technique and improving upon the current technique by doing pause sets and banded sets or tempo sets to really optimize your technique and your strength to allow you to make further progress. Also at this point in time, things like sleep and recovery will become that much more important once again, because it will be that much harder to make any more progress. And that is pretty much how you progress from a beginner all the way up towards an advanced athlete. And something I would like to stress in this video, and I would like to repeat it once more, is that try to make progress on the easiest setup possible and don't overcomplicate things if you don't have to. Really make as much progress as long as possible with the easiest setup possible, because simply there is no need to overcomplicate things if you don't have to. And with that being said, let's actually end up today's video. So as always, like and subscribe if you guys haven't already, and share the video with something that you think it could be useful to. If you guys have any more video ideas, video advice or questions, leave it down below in the comment section. And I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday. 3 videos a week. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Laters.